What's going on, people? So, real quick here, let's try to knock this thing out fairly quickly because I got a lot of stuff lined up. Side of the box real quick for you, right? That kind of gives you an idea of what we're talking about and all that good stuff. So, now that you've seen that, let's do this thing, huh? This right here is the Brooks Glycerin 21 StealthFit in Persimmon, according to the box. Actually, it's Glycerin StealthFit 21. You put the thing, what is that, like an adjective, I guess, before like the number. So either way, right? This friend right here, I'll just tell you right off the top, right? The thing that drove me into getting these was like that it reminded me of like these right here. I don't know if you remember these. This is the Adidas Ultraboost Mid, right? From some years ago, 2019, 2018. 2018 is when these came out, right? But yeah, saw these, picked them up. They were one of the first Adidas Ultraboost reviews here on the channel and whatnot. Still a favorite to wear once in a while, you know? And when I saw these, oh, those look like something that I like, so maybe I'll like those too. So here we are. There's a little backstory for you. Anyways, we're gonna jump on into this thing as we often do. Starting with the bottom down there, what are you looking at? Nothing too crazy, right? It's typical outsole approach that you'll see on a lot of these Brooks type shoes, so that's fine with me. Let's move on up here, midsole stuff, right? Same thing as before, right? Nothing too crazy about it. I like the purple, right? Got a little bit of gradient happening once in a while on there, so pretty nice. And now if we look real quick onto the inside here, right? There, not as much color-wise going on, and it does say it's like the DNA loft, all the, you know, the DNA injection, the nitrogen injection stuff going on, right? So, you know, typical midsole things, nothing flashy about it, but it works. Overshots and whatnot, so that we can kind of see some of this from like a different angle. Yeah, it's a lot to take in some ways, but at the same time, it's not, you know? I mean, we'll get in here a little bit closer, you know, so that way you can see these in more detail, I guess, you know what I'm saying? Because once you get down into like the stitching and whatnot, you can tell that the stitching pattern itself does switch up just a little bit. So I do kind of like that, you know, and just like the vibrant colors of it all is also just very cool. And then down around on the side, like where you have like these little thicker lines, whatever, usually that type of area is there more for support of the overall shoe and type of things like that. So that's kind of what's going on in this case as well, right? But anyways, let's move on just to the middle area here a little bit. So you got a little bit of branding on the side there. It says Brooks and whatnot. Looking in there a little bit closer, it's all nice and stitched in. Pretty cool. I do like that a fair amount, right? Really fits the overall vibe of like the aesthetic that they're going for here. And then as you get to the back end, the back third or so of this shoe, it's basically all the same stuff back there as well, right? Just a lot of knit stuff happening. And you do have this little pull tab on the back end. I don't know if you noticed that, but I'll point that out because that is a thing that can be handy once in a while, right? Especially when you have a shoe design like this. But let's jump back over to the front, talk about the lace area for just a moment here. So the laces that you have on here, standard ropey type laces that you would probably expect on things of this nature, you know. And I will say this, they feel really cool. And if you look at them from the right angles, you can kind of see a little bit deep into there. Like there's some other color behind it. Not sure what's going on, but it just makes for a really nice look, at least in my opinion. And then on the side, you do have these little lines down the side that are just kind of holding them there, because a lot of the times with shoes like this, like the laces are kind of unnecessary, but you know, they are there. So that's what's going on. Past that tongue wise, right? It's not really like a tongue, it's just like a tongue area, I guess. But either way, it's going to be nice and stretchy in the middle area, which is how that's often done on a lot of these shoes, at least as of late. And then as you get over to the top, you have the same thing that you've seen a lot as of late, with the whole branding thing going down on this little strip, right? So Glycerin StealthFit 21. And one thing that I will mention right now, like if you probably noticed that this tongue is just basically like a stitched on part of the shoe and all that good stuff. And yet at first it can kind of dig a little bit into your ankle when you're like walking around in them initially. It goes away, as it's always gone away on like say like the Ultraboost 19s and 20s, and either the 21 or the 22 was a bit of a problem because of that thing they had on there. But overall, since this is just the material of the knitting and whatnot, no extra like blocks on here, this I don't think it'll be a problem. So moving on past all that stuff, right? Getting down on into like the sock liner. Very nice and soft feeling, right? It's got this little of like a nylon or neoprene type of thing going on. Almost feels like memory foam when you like put your fingers on it. It's kind of nice actually. So that's kind of just like some sort of dark gray type of color. And while we're in there, real quick, one thing on the back end, sometimes it might look a little questionable as to how comfortable something could be as far as like rubbing against your ankle. But the part where I would question it would be mostly right in the middle, and this softness of this here little pull tab thing kind of helps negate that, right? But the outskirts of it still a little questionable. But luckily, like because of the way these ankle liners are, that shouldn't be all up on you anyway. But you know, it's just a thing for people who wear like lower socks to think about, I guess. Now, as we get down onto the inside, you'll see a sock line, an insole that just says Brooks on there, which is standard. But on the other shoe, on that insole, it says cushion and neutral, saying that this is a cushion-based shoe and it's built for neutral-based stylings of whatnot. So, unlike support-type shoes, you know, sometimes you just have the neutral ones. Anyways, it's kind of a pronation sort of deal. But past that, the one thing I will point out, down there on the inside of these kind of reminds me of like the inside of like what 350s looked like, you know. But other than that, I think that covers everything about the visual. So I guess from here, I'll hit you with some of my personal opinions and whatnot on how this whole thing looks, and then we'll ride that thing on into the sizing and stuff, right? Then we'll be done. Well, kind of. Still got 3 more reviews to do after this. I think that these look really cool, right? That's the thing that drew me to them. Like I said in the beginning, the similarity to basically like a lot of my favorite things of the past, so like the VaporMax Flyknit 2, the earlier Ultraboost, especially the mid versions, right? This looked a lot like that, and it was kind of like, how could I not get these? I was already considering getting one of the StealthFits just because people said, oh, well, these have a really nice fit. It's good for just casual wear as well, blah, blah, blah. So I was thinking, you know, that could be something to try out, but I'd need a color that really speaks to me, and that was this one. It popped up later on after I'd initially seen the model. This came around, and I look at them now, you know, taking all the pictures and stuff. Yeah, these to me, like, they deliver on everything that like the pictures made me think I was going to get. So I'm cool with it, and even some of the little things that I hadn't really thought about before actually buying them and receiving them are making me like them a little bit more. So all in all, this purchase has been working out pretty well so far. And I know I'm not gonna get all into the sizing and comfort just yet. That'll be another thing, but even that's a thumbs up. So that's also a plus, right? That's kind of like the main thing, really. So all in all, like, I don't remember how much money they wanted for these, but it was an acceptable amount. And I, at this point, do not regret it. Not one bit, not 1 cent. Things are working out pretty well. So that's very cool. But at this point, though, it's about time for me to be done with the Brooks purchases because I got a lot of them. But this is a good one to kind of end the book on. You know what I'm saying? So anyways, moving on past that, I don't have a whole lot else to really say about the Brooks here, the Glycerin 21, the StealthFit 21. So I'm going to move on. I'm going to talk about that whole sizing situation like I was getting into, and then that'll be that. So here we go. Sizing wise, I bought these in a 9.5, right? The reason I do that, like I often say, I have a size 9.5 foot, tends to work out pretty well. In this case, it did work out pretty well, right? This is kind of reminiscent of a lot of those older Ultraboosts that I was referring to, and that it's kind of a knitted thing, so it can kind of hug your feet a little tighter or whatever. So that's just one of those things where it's a little more likely to break in than a lot of other materials, so I don't really worry too much about it. But even still, it wasn't like overly snug or anything like that. It actually felt like pretty nice. Like right out of the box, it was like, okay, this is just enough room. I will say it's not as like flexible, like as far as like moving your toes around as some of those older Ultraboosts were. But that was a very different knitting material and all that good stuff. And in some ways you probably do want a little bit more of a stability in there. just because this is a running shoe and you don't want to be just kind of like slipping and falling all around here when you're running in these, right? So for that reason, I'll kind of give that a pass. It's also a breathable upper because it is all knit, right? So that's a good thing, especially as we start moving into like the spring and summer, hopefully eventually. Then this will be something that'll be good to have. Now, as far as like the midsole goes, right? It's the, like I was saying before, when I bought the Glycerin 22, I hadn't worn a pair of Glycerin 21s, and walking around in these, it's strange. Like, it made me feel like the Glycerin 22s are like super squishy. Originally they didn't feel that way. The 21s feel a bit more solid underfoot. As far as like personal preference, that's going to be up to you as far as which one you'd rather have. But I would say you might want to try a pair of 21s and 22s, especially since the 21s are still readily available and quite cheap now, because it might be something that some people want over the other, and vice versa, right? But either way, I had no complaints about it. So all in all, things are looking pretty good with the 21s here. Again, I just really wanted it for the look, but it's nice that it has some functionality behind it too. So, from me to you, have a nice rest of your day or rest of your night, wherever you are. On to the Glycerin Max. Later, people.